everyone, and welcome to Just a Conversation.
It's crazy. Oh, it went through? Okay.
It's crazy today? This week?
It's blessed,
It's
man.
blessed this week. All right, in the midst of that, we have none other than Minister Amon, Brother Matthew, or Minister Hayden. Man, our guest tonight is none other than Todd DeVoe, and we have another guest that's been gone for over 40 episodes.
It's been a minute.
40.
We haven't seen
Over
her
40
since 2019. It's crazy out here.
Wow.
Long time.
Well, was it 2018?
No, it was 19. Calm down.
It's like, it's been a
Thank
minute.
you.
It's like,
We want to say welcome back to none other than Evangelist Hayden.
It's good to be back. Thank you.
And don't forget when you come in to share this program out, don't forget to hop over to our YouTube page, which is Just a Conversation. Don't forget to subscribe and also don't forget to like. Man, what a week.
I really got to ask, though. Tavo,
Yes, sir.
you also have a soulful voice, man?
Oh, what?
A soulful voice, man. It's the last name, Tavo.
Like if he sings?
It's like-
Bell DeVoe.
There you go.
Hey, I just had to ask. Like, the name is like, yeah.
That was a good one.
Funny story.
Oh, you do?
No. I
Oh,
don't. But I had an opportunity to play, not jumping ahead, but playing the NFL for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And when I scored a touchdown against the Eagles, one of the commentators said, Todd Bell Biv DeVoe. It was. My family loved it. I loved it. Just a good experience.
Hey, they gave him that shine. It's like,
Never know the guy. I never met the guy. Wish I would. My favorite boy band.
New Edition? No, Bell DeVoe came out of New Edition.
BBD.
Yeah. So, yeah,
They
I'm
spun
on the
off.
right track. I'm on the right track.
Yeah.
That's my error. If it isn't love, why does it?
okay.
All
We
right.
hear,
That's
those.
Quiet Storm.
But yeah, man, with everything going on nowadays, with the protests and everything, we just here tonight just to talk about, pretty much mental health. So Matthew, topic.
Topic is what to maintain healthy mental state. It's like, what do you do so you don't implode?
So what do you do so you don't implode? And I'm gonna actually, before we even get to Todd right now, I'm gonna go to Evangelist with that because she has something that was really like holding her down for a little bit. So talk to us tonight. Let us know how you overcame that. How you overcame how you kept positive. When you felt like you just want to like just give up and just move, just throw it out the window and just I'm done with it. But what kept you positive?
Are we talking about school?
Yeah.
It's a long story, but to put it in a nutshell, I can't say I felt like giving up, really. If that thought came across my mind, it might be like maybe once or twice, but I think I put too much time, too much effort, too much money into school to think about giving up. I knew it wasn't an option, so I just never even decided to think about that. But I realized that if I was blocking myself. And so there were obstacles in the way, a lot of financial issues and school itself, the actual school. I had some issues with the school, and there was a lot of different obstacles along the way, and it caused me from going to a school that would last for 1 year and 6 months, turn into almost 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've been battling with trying to get out of school for so long. And like I said, giving up was not an option. But I realized that I had to, if I wanted it, I have to get up and I have to step over the obstacles, climb over them, sweep them out the way, pray them away, do, whatever it took. So I never stopped fighting. I was fighting the whole time. And there were times when I stopped fighting and I just lay down and decided I want to sleep and rest and stop, not give up, but just tired of running and fighting and let me just catch my breath and go back at it. And so I believe being consistent was what finally got me out, with a lot of praying and a lot of believing, and God turned some tables and opened some doors, and a lot happened. But like I said, I can't really relate in this particular case in regards to giving up, and it wasn't an option for me. So I can't.
Congrats.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank
Yeah, so
you.
tell them what the
Thank
outcome
you.
was. What was the outcome?
Well, the outcome was awesome. I was battling with school for so long, trying to get out of school, and my school gave me like 4 different exit exams. Most schools only have one exam they do, and 70%, and you're out of there, and you can go take your boards. My school had 4 exit exams, and you have to pass with 85%, and it was just rough. And so I kept going back, and I would fail, and then I'd go back, and then I would fail, and then I'd go back, and so I would fail, and then I passed one exam, and then that's one hurdle, and then I'd try again, and just keep going back. Like I said, God opened the door. During this COVID, a lot of things became, they made it more convenient.
Yeah.
So all my grades with the, whatever I passed, and even if the one that I failed, but if I failed with a decent grade, they put them all together and happened to kind of average my grades, and I passed the score that they required. And so they were like, okay, congratulations, you're done. I was like, really? Yes, finally, thank you, Jesus. I had one more exam to pass, but God opened that door. And so I went, and I had a month to study for the boards. Because the minute I found out they sent my name into state board, I decided, you know what, this is it. It just became real.
Yeah.
Because I've been playing around and lingering and up and down for so long that now it finally became the real deal. Nice. I'm really going to go do my boards finally.
Really
and so, so I prayed, and I asked God to guide me how to get, how to study. Because I didn't even know. I had so many resources and so many different things that I just didn't know where to start. Like I said, I prayed about it, and the Lord just led me into getting the date, the quickest date I could find, and it gave me a month, and I just buckled down. I cut everything off, cut everybody off. I stopped answering my phone, and I just went into the books.
Knocked it out.
And 60 questions later.
That means she got all 60, right?
That doesn't mean that. No, it just means I stayed.
That's a long 60.
Yeah, I just kind of was average and staying at the right
because
pace.
the way they do it is up to 60 questions. If you're doing bad, they shut it off. But if you're doing good, they shut it off also. So it's like you could do the 60 questions and shut it off, and you'd be like, did I do bad?
Yeah.
Mentality, your first thing you start thinking like, man, I failed.
Yeah.
Because it shut off. But
Yeah.
If you're also doing good with the first 60, then they also shut it off also.
Right. It's an adaptive exam.
Yeah.
So if you're doing good, it just keep giving you harder questions. And if you do bad, you go down. If you keep doing bad, if you pass that average line and keep going down, then you fail. Period. But if you keep doing good, they'll just give you harder questions. Anyway, long story short, the minimum questions you could get is 60, and the maximum is 130, I think. Usually, it's 265 questions, I think, if I remember, and the minimum would be 75 questions.
Man, that's torture.
It is torture, yeah. And if you do really well, the computer could shut off at the minimum questions, and you're just confused. Did I pass?
Yeah.
And these questions are nothing like.
And you don't get the results immediately?
No.
Oh,
So I was tormented for like 4 days before I found out that I passed it. But you know what? I had nothing to do with it. I give all the glory to Jesus. I promise you, all the glory belongs to God. He did it for me. I think I passed out because I had to have on a mask. I was anxious and nervous, and I was hyperventilating, and I couldn't breathe.
You passed out?
I believe I passed out, and Jesus just kind of pushed me over and said, "Let me do this for you," and he just did it and knocked it out. And
that's right.
Yeah, that's what happened. That's the story I'm sticking to.
For real.
So yeah, God is good, but giving up is not an option in this case. It wasn't an option for me. I know a lot of people gave up on nursing school because it's tough. It's tough. It's challenging. It's frustrating, and you have another life outside of school that you have to be focused on too. So
true.
But you want it or you don't. You
and after 5 years, that's the big part for me. Is like you never gave up.
That's it.
Yeah, you pushed.
And then that's
through.
why you can't like us, like to me, like our generation, like growing our kids, we look at our kids different than how we were growing up.
Yeah.
Where it's like they're like forced us to do things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where now we're looking at our kids like, man, I'm not gonna force that upon you. It's like everyone asks me like, yo, D, you're like a good football player. Your kids play football? I go, no. He's like, you never want? I said, no. I'm not gonna force that on them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I think that's the good thing with our with our era, that we're actually giving our kids room to like use their mental capacity and think about what they really want to do. Yeah. I read like was it last year or a year or so ago where a 12-year-old became like a millionaire over YouTube, and I'm like,
yeah.
Seriously,
they got a different.
I'm getting doing these video games.
Every
so
year
it's like we can't just be stuck on that. And I remember, and it was actually good. Like I ran into Todd because like me and was shooting up for a little bit out there, and we were talking about like the whole experience and stuff like that. And I told him, no, my biggest regret in high school is even touching the football field. I mean, it taught you a lot of discipline. It taught you a lot of things. But it kind of messes up your whole mental capacity when you're thinking about, moving on with life and moving on with this. You get so focused on this one thing. Yeah. And you're like, okay, if I don't make it at this, then what am I going to do?
One track, yeah.
A lot of us came out of high school and college and all we knew was just football.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. All we knew was just like, okay, I'm gonna go work out. I'm gonna run. I'm gonna make sure I'm eating right. I'm gonna make sure like when I come back for spring season, we had 2 days. I'm gonna be stronger than the next person. You know what I mean? That was our mentality. And when you go out there, I'm gonna hit somebody. You know what I mean? And you were taught that, and then you're actually like doing more damage than you could do good. I remember when I transitioned from high school to college, it was like so different because practice went minimum. It was more walkthroughs. Yeah. It was more studying plays.
Mental preparation.
Yeah, like when you're in high school, it's just like, no, you got to go hit.
Yeah.
Everything was hitting drill. Everything was hitting drill. Yeah. And it's just like it was like a big transition. I had to like my whole mindset had to change. Like
switch.
This is different. This is not what I'm used to. And then you were taught how to hit somebody. You were taught how to do this. When before you wasn't. Right. You used to show up the football practice like, man, coach, man, I'm gonna feel go run it out or go walk it out.
For real, no serious, yeah.
And that stuff is people don't understand. Like now, when you growing up and you have a son now, and your son come, you look at your son, you say, man, go walk it off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Toughen up, be a man.
Yeah.
And a lot of that stuff messes us our mental health. You know what I mean? So we're gonna let Todd, talk more about that right now. So platform is yours.
All right, appreciate it. So my name is Todd DeVoe. Me and Dwayne had the pleasure of going to high school together, and just in transition, we bumped into each other at a gas station. That was my first time seeing him in years.
Nice.
Maybe probably like I saw him once or twice since we graduated. But one thing I noticed that God don't make no mistakes.
That's right.
We definitely bumped into each other for the right reason, and that's why I'm here today. A lot of things that I have learned is just like this young lady next to me is how to persevere. Going from six trunk to BA to Missouri to the NFL, and then that's where it stopped for me because, like Dwayne said, I didn't have a plan B. Yeah. So my plan B was to play until I can't play no more. But at some point, you have to start teaching a plan B. You have to have a plan B before a plan A. Yeah. Because once it ends, that's where my mental health went downhill. Wow. Because now I have to adjust to a life that I don't know. I don't know anything outside of this. I know what I can do. I know if I put my mind, I can do anything. But it's a lot different than
getting your mind there.
Exactly. Getting to the point where you're comfortable with doing something where everybody knows you as the football player, the athlete, or the this or that. So when you have children, you have to view them the same way you view your career. It takes time, it takes patience, it takes building, it takes understanding. Yeah. When we are young, I know where I'm from, if you cried, nobody didn't try to find out why you cried. They just told you to stop crying. They told you to shut up and be a man, shut up and do this. Yeah. What you're not doing, you're not teaching us how to release. You're not teaching us that you're confident enough in us that you can sit there and listen to what we have to say because now you're creating a platform for us to build as adults because one thing as our black and brown people are starting to understand, we don't like to talk. No. Yeah. We always internalize everything to the point where it affects us and to the point it find ways to lash out many different ways.
And men especially too.
And that's what's hurting us because our kids need us. And if your child can't come to you and talk or self-express, then what are we here for? And by me making that transition, I had to find something that I felt like I would be good at. And I was always good at listening or having conversation, but I wasn't one within myself in order to make that transition complete. So what I had to do first, I had to find me. In order for me to find me, I had to accept certain things about who I was and what route I'm trying to take. And once I kind of seen the direction my life was going, I looked in the mirror and like, who is this person? You know, you make mistakes, but own up to your mistakes. Accept those mistakes and find a way to move forward. And then it was when I came back home, I moved back to Fort Lauderdale, I want to say in like 2014 or 15 from Missouri. Some of my coaches, Coach Jefferson, Coach Wally Howard, were two of the people that when I was in high school who guided me. And these are the same two people almost 20 years later who I'm looking up to, telling me the same exact thing. Get your butt off your shoulders, take a deep breath, and figure it out. And it wasn't until I came back to Fort Lauderdale that I realized that the route I was taking wasn't the route I was supposed to be on. You know, a lot of us don't understand that when you diverge from your yellow brick road, somebody finds a way to put you back, whether you like it or not. And the thing is, the more you keep diverging, the more you're being put back. It's like a puppy when you let it out of the cage when it's too young. You get that puppy and you put him back. And then once that puppy understands what's going on, okay, now we can start teaching. Because now we have an understanding of that's not where I'm supposed to be, but I'm here. And now we have a better understanding of the road we take. So, you know, mental health was so important to me because when you're depressed and you're going through your other things, you try to be strong for other people, but you're depressed, they're depressed, now we're depressed. Now it's a big depression where nobody is going on. Now all we doing is having
nobody's
nobody's gonna heal.
Nobody's getting better. We having a big kumbaya for no reason. You know, and it's like the people,
we're understanding why you're sitting in your funk.
Exactly.
Because I'm there too, and we're not realizing no, we don't need to be here. We need to move on. We need to grow, learn.
And the thing is, a lot of times people that are in that state of mind, they don't want to hear that because they're comfortable with being there. And when you try to get them out of their comfort zone, then you have an issue. Because when you get out of that comfort zone, it's things called accountability.
Oh,
which
come on
means
now.
you're going to have to accept those things. Once you get to that point where you can stop blaming people for what you have been lacking or what you have been putting out there, then things start to somehow, some way fall into place.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I can say.
You take responsibility.
It's like, you know, when I was told by an advisor, you have to choose a career. And so, you know, you're going down these different things, these different paths, and you got a broad... You can go to school for whatever you want to go to school for.
True.
Definitely.
So you can go for computer science. You can go for computer science. You can go for whatever you want to go for. But I always felt like my biggest contribution to this world is just being somebody for the community, being somebody for the youth, being somebody that I can say to my kids, we have a type of relationship where you don't have to hold back from me. I don't know everything, but if you tell me I know enough about you so we can come to an understanding, and I try to be that way with everybody I encounter because you just never know.
And that makes them, especially the younger, the kids and the younger people, it kind of gives them a sense of security. There's somewhere they can go to release, to talk,
and
to express.
They need it.
Somebody will listen and understand that,
my kids are middle school age kids, and just talking about working at Lauderdale Lakes Middle, you had the opportunity to listen to 12, 13, 14-year-olds, and your mind is just like, because it's like when we was that age, we may not have wanted to, but we had options to people to talk to. You pick and choose who you're going to talk to and what you're going to say. A lot of these kids, what we're not understanding, don't have that option.
It's real slim.
Because the household itself is like we just said, they're depressed. So instead of you paying attention to the child and see what's going on, you're not giving them that platform. So what they do, they come and act out. And the topic of the day is how can you keep them from imploding? You got to listen. You got to be a sponge. You got to be available. That's the most important thing. If you make yourself available for somebody that needs you, then you become more valuable.
But not only just being a sponge, but I believe that also being a sponge, but you gotta actually show them that you actually care. You know what I mean? So you can listen to somebody and just be like a deer with the deer in the headlights. You know, just listening. But when you actually show them that you care, you give them advice. You know, that shows them that listen, like you really do care, and that makes a difference. And I mean, when we were coming up, I mean, they probably still have it today. Is the guidance counselor. Yeah. I just never felt I could go to my guidance counselor.
I know we had a guidance counselor.
I know we had him in school, but it's like I'm gonna go to my guidance counselor and talk to them about, and I'm like, nah, that's not gonna happen. You know, and that's the thing. You know, it's like when you listen to someone, you know, also show them that you care. Yeah. You know, show them that you have like a sense of you know, of care, understanding of what they're going through.
Concern.
You know, concern. Yeah. Don't just listen to somebody and then be like, it is what it is. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's the biggest thing I was hearing for a while. It is what it is. No, it ain't. It's nothing. It is what it is. You know, it is what you make it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And you're looking at someone like Todd is saying, like, middle school, man, God bless you, bro. I don't think I could do it. But you're listening to them and you have to give them advice, and you're like, bro, that one device could take that one kid into something so much super better.
Yeah, it does, man, and it's refreshing just to see them go from a frown to a smile when they're in your presence because of just what you said by you interacting with them. Sometimes when kids come to school and you just say good morning, that makes a difference because you don't know how long they never heard that before, or you never heard you hungry, or did you eat, or are you full? You
some
just
concern,
some concern that you care that you do have somebody in your corner. That makes a big difference for a child to take that next step into where they're trying to go, and
it's
adults too.
It's something that David said in the Bible that I really like, always attached to it. It says, "No man careth for my soul," and it was over. I think it was last year. Was that young kid that got accepted? I think it was at Georgia State or something like that. And his mom and his sister was like living in the car, and they were homeless or something like that. And then I think it was like the week after, like the kid just like threw himself in front of a train.
Oh, you talking about Bryce? That was this year.
That was 2020. Wow. So you know what I mean, think about a young man like that had a wonderful talent. You know what I mean, he just needed the right guidance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, and he probably just felt like.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
He probably just felt like he was just taking on so much, and he's carrying so much burden. And he when you're taking on, you're not releasing anything. After a while, you implode.
Would you say that in the case of Bryce, if that's his name, that he was depressed? Do you think he was depressed?
You know what's funny about that story, and it's a touchy story because I coached Bryce at Deerfield. So, you know, just not knowing, you know. You trying to be the best coach, and I know Coach Glenn and Coach Philly and all those guys over there at Deerfield. You know, I know those guys do a great job of being available. How available, I don't know, you know, but I know that those guys do a great job of not only coaching but being mentors. Coach Pat, Coach Gray, and all those guys over there. So, you know, when I got the phone call, you know, about it from another coach, you know, it set me back a couple of days because, you know, you see so many good things in Bryce. You see so much positivity, just smiling. And, you know, in mental health, that can be an indication, you know, an indicator that something may possibly be wrong. Yeah. And not enough people, let me take that back, not the right people asked this kid what was wrong. Because it's a lot of ways you can go with this. But excuse me, in his honor, you know, or whatever's going on, you know, it's just a very unfortunate situation because we need to input more mental health type of education into the schools because teachers are taught to teach. They're not taught to be therapists. Right. And we put so much on those teachers that we are looking for things out of them that they're not capable of doing. And it's not their fault. It's just when you decided to take a major, your major was education and not therapy. So if we can have more, TED Talk or something for our teachers to become more in depth with mental health and know what to look for, I think it'll help the school system, and that's nationwide. Like again, I don't know, I don't have all the answers, but again, I just feel like if that young man had somebody, that would have paid attention to the signs or did that, then we'll be talking about him getting ready for practice at Georgia Tech.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hearing it a lot, like EI, emotional intelligence, and even with these police and how they policing, I think it's the same thing there too. They need to be able to see signs. They need to be able to get trained and not just thrown into a place where they just have to do their job and react on the fly.
Yeah.
Like kind of like how you said, even after you figured out, after the NFL and your career, and I pretty much can imagine that was the best time in your life.
Yeah.
But thinking about there's better on the horizon and just being thrust into something new without even knowing the better is coming, but just coming out of the plateau.
Yeah.
And I think that's sometimes what happens to us. But before we get mentally prepared for it, it comes at us so fast, and we don't know what to do.
Yeah, because a lot of times, I heard a quote say, when the money gone, do the honey stay? Do the gray clouds replace the sunny days? And they don't.
They don't.
The gray clouds stay gray.
Yeah.
Because now everybody who was there for the good time, for the party, for the tickets, for all that other stuff, they're gone. So now you're stuck with the people that was there before.
Yeah.
And they don't have an answer, and you don't have an answer. Now we back at square one. So as big of a influence as football was on my life, at sometimes I wish I stopped at a certain point and took life head on a little earlier. Now, because I chose to keep going, football has paid for my school. They have paid for a lot of different things. They have put me in places that only that type of profession can put you in. So I'm very thankful, and I thank God for having the opportunity to have lived that dream, because I didn't just live it for me. I lived it for a lot of my friends and family that was rooting for me to get to that point. So I don't want to ever downplay anything that they have prayed for me or instilled in me to get to that point.
Definitely.
But I think from a personal perspective, just like he said, I didn't have a go-to afterwards. I didn't have a go-to before. It was either that or bust. And like you said, coming out of high school, I hate to say it, but they didn't teach us have a plan B. Education wasn't, as long as you was eligible to play, they were fine.
Yeah.
They didn't say go above and beyond. Like, let's talk about Bryce. This kid had a 4.0 almost. Like, this kid was an intelligent kid.
Right.
So somewhere along the lines, he understood what he needed to do because somebody put that in his mind that this is what you need to do. Well, I think when we was in school, you needed a 1.5.
Yeah.
That's all. That's basically all D's in the C. That's not telling you to reach for the stars. What that's telling you is that the bare minimum in life will get you by. That's not true, because if you only reaching for the bare minimum,
there is no plan B with the bare minimum.
There is no plan B.
The
There's
bare
no plan
minimum
A.
is the plan D.
Exactly.
With nothing else ahead.
I was watching this. They call this thing. They call it Juco ball now, where they like Mississippi and all those over there.
I went to junior college.
And if you notice, a lot of those guys that's inside that whole assembly, they're just troubled kids, bro.
Yeah.
They're like, they gotta like have like a counselor like living on them, like being on their behind, like you need to go to class.
Yeah.
Like, did you do your work? Like, did you do this? Did you do that? Like somebody has to like be on top of them. And then you have kids that went to like big colleges that's like messed up, and they're pretty much trying to get a second chance.
Yeah.
And they go to a place like that and they do get a second chance. Now, I always used to tell myself, like, when I was done and everything, I was like, man, I should go be a coach and, instill like some different similarities than what I was taught. Because I remember like people thought like football was good because we wore our jerseys on Friday and we had like the good food and all that stuff. They don't understand like when you leave that field on Friday night and you lost, bro, coach is cussing you out from the time you hit the bus until you reach back to the school. Yeah. And then you already know come Monday when you hit that field, all we gonna be doing is running. Punishment. Like, where's that ever like why is like losing like such a punishment? Like you could win like literally 8 games and lose 1 and it becomes punishment.
Listen.
Yeah.
And I used to be like, I remember one time like coach is like, listen, we're gonna run around the lake around by BA.
Yeah.
I looked at that lake and I'm like, I'm not running it. I told him straight up. I said, I'm not doing it. And he was like, oh, you're going to be disobedient and you ain't got to play. I said, that's fine. Don't make no matter to me because at the end of the day, why am I running? What are you teaching me by making me run around this?
Yeah.
Push.
Yeah.
We did push. We did play. But somebody's going to always be out. Somebody's going to outplay you no matter how good you are. Tom Brady went 15 and 16 and 0 until he got some time to playoffs and they knocked him out. You know what I mean? You can't. I mean, there's like one undefeated team, and that was the Dolphins. So how you figure that you're going to be able to make every season like an undefeated a season?
I think with discipline, when you decide to implement certain type of discipline, it needs to be a message behind it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, I'm gonna tell you the biggest thing when I was talking to a friend of mine, and the conversation was, why do we use reading as punishment? Why do we tell you go read a book because you're in trouble? When you get to school, what do you think that child is going to do?
Not want
If the
to
teacher
read.
say, Johnny, go read, I don't want to read, I'm not in trouble. And they don't understand
Exactly.
that you're
It's associated with
exactly,
trouble, yeah.
with trouble. So a lot of things that we were taught, I think we had to grow up a little faster than we wanted to.
Yeah.
Because everything that you wanted, everything that you did, you had to make that happen. Just like me going to junior college. I went to junior college because I slacked in class. Academics wasn't my thing because football was more important.
More important to you.
Until I realized I couldn't do one without the other. Then when I finally realized that, it started making more sense. And so in junior college, you don't fly to games. You drive. We drove a bus from the top of Mississippi, and it was a people mover. Them lot of little buses. You drove one of those with offensive linemen, wide receivers, quarterback, defense on the other bus, 2 to a seat. So imagine driving 12 hours. You play a game and go right home.
Back,
So not only did you take a BS shower, you probably finna eat some ham and cheese that you don't want with tater chips and a Gatorade. That's, who knows, you appreciated those things. And I think along your journey in life, your pit stops aren't mistakes.
Exactly.
Your pit stops are part of your yellow brick road because you have to get off in order for you to understand what's next. It'll make you appreciate the small things. One of the things that happened to me in junior, I lost my grandmother. My grandmother, we were really close.
Right.
And so it made me realize that life happens.
Yeah.
And when life happens, you have to move on.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you're going to forget this person. It doesn't mean that you're not going to enjoy the experience. But when you start to understand what life really means, when you look back at all those things, all those interaction with people, when you meet people, when you go places. I have a whole family that had basically adopted me in Mississippi, where I met this dude named Dave Hamilton. He was my locker mate, sitting next to me. His mom is like my real life, like my mom. Like this is like my brother. Like all by us just being on the same team. You meet guys from all over. Then you go from there to another place, and you meet a whole nother different people. And it's like from 6 Trunk Gardens, growing up in the city, to BA. From there, I got millions and millions of friends. If I don't go to BA, then me and you not talking.
Right.
So this is another connection.
Yeah.
Then you go to college. Dave, he talked to me like my brother. Then you go to Missouri. You meet Kevin and the rest of these guys. These are lifelong friends that you made.
Yeah.
Because at some point, your journey stop you there. It's like when you catching the bus, your bus has stops, right? For every stop that you get off on, it's going to be a different interaction.
Yeah.
So we don't appreciate those interactions. Everybody that you meet, everybody that you run across, everybody that you say hi to, you say bye to, is for a reason. Who knows? Like we don't take the time out to, if we all in the crowd, and my apologies for coming in today and seeming a little standoffish, but I had to get used to the surroundings.
Yeah.
See, the thing is, that's a bad mentality.
Right.
Because I'm in here, which means I was invited here, which means I should have felt welcome. And we'll go to places with a group of people, and we'll be standoffish. It's hundreds of people in here. Why are you over there? You don't know who you're going to encounter. You don't know who you're going to meet. I may meet the next Barack Obama right here to my left. Or you and Michelle to my right. I don't know what's going on. I may meet the next person that's going to start their own TV production company. But I don't know who you are because I chose to stay to myself in a room full of people. And that's where mental health comes in, because a lot of times we're so trapped in our minds that we don't want to extend because we got to be tough. We got to be in back of the wall. Nah, I ain't on that. What you not on? You're not on interaction. You're not on talking. You're not on understanding how this thing goes. Because what I have found out is networking is the key to success.
It is.
I mean, you can't build an empire by it's going to take a long time to build a house by yourself.
But you got hands.
But if you get two more hands, and they get two more hands,
quicker.
Listen, man, we can make this thing work.
Where you coming from with that standoffish thing is I also go through it, but I'm more like I observe you so I can figure out who you are more than I can't rock with these people because they're weird. Because it's like I usually, because for me, I'm like, before I could truly enjoy myself, I want to know who I'm around. So that's why I'm like, all right. But once I figured that out, I'm still a little bit standoffish.
Oh, Lord.
But the thing is, you gave it opportunity.
Yeah.
So at least you can say,
Could it be that some people are just extremely protective of their emotions, or just very guarded?
It could be they like their own space. But again, I'm not saying that you can't have a good time. But if you know that's what kind of person you are, then why put yourself in a certain type of environment? Because then now you're a whole different type of stress.
Well, the thing is, how I look at it is like, because I'm tired of this way I'm dealing with things. So it's like I'm gonna put myself in that, out in the ocean. It's like it's scary, and I'm hoping that my lifeline is there to like keep me. But it's like I know I have to go through it in order if I really want to change who I am.
Exactly, you want to grow.
Yeah, it's like. Because standoffish is, you realize after a while, it doesn't get you nowhere other than like keeping that self-image. Like, nah. It's like when you want to know people, it's like it's best to go out there, introduce yourself. Don't be afraid of getting those whips, them stripes on like your skin. Like, yeah, it's rough. Just like any water is like when you're going through the rapids. It's gonna be rough, but hey, you gotta go through it.
You gotta go through it.
Sometimes it's fear also, just fear of the unknown, fear of what people are saying, and how they're looking at you, and whatever else. Some kind of fear can keep you back from being more social and network and grow as a person, as an individual.
I'm curious about something though. You said that you were an NFL player, right? That means that you traveled a lot of places, right?
I have.
Both on and off the field?
Mm-hmm.
Why, after everything, you decided to say, you know what, I'm coming back to Florida?
A big reason was my family was here. I felt alone where I was at. I had, I was in Missouri. I had friends who became family. Kamani and a couple more people, Rich. But I needed to be home. I needed to be home to save myself mentally because I was all over the place. I wasn't where I needed to be, so I was forcing myself to be somewhere I can hide. Because if I keep myself away from the people that matter, then they won't know something is wrong. But I can pretend if I call you on the phone, hey, everything good, it's all right. But when I hang up, tears of joy because I hid it again instead of going and sit down and facing what I need to face. And so, after a conversation with my kids, it was time. And I had to understand, like you said, I mean, football took me to Germany, Amsterdam. We went to, I've been to every state. I mean, it's so many things that football has provided, but it didn't provide that feeling of the hole I had. It didn't provide the emptiness I felt because I let depression kick in, and football was my outlet, but it wasn't a game no more. It was a business. So once it became from college to you getting paid and things are being dictated, I didn't want to do it no more. I couldn't tell the people around me that I didn't want to do it no more because I felt like I was letting them down because how do you get to the mountaintop and say, I'm done?
Yeah.
Yes.
How do you get there?
Yeah.
Because you work all your life
To get
get there. And when you get there, you plant your 2 feet, you through the door.
Yeah.
For you to say, I'm going to just slide back down. Because a lot of people don't understand the mental wear and tear it took for you to get there. Like Dwayne said, number one, you have to start from the youth. You dealing with coaches who have full-time jobs and a part-time coaches, which means they're not teaching you anything mentally. What they're doing is teaching you how to be tough without teaching you how to be tough. Because if I tell you, this is a fun fact. Now, a lot of people that's watching family-wise going to know this. If I lost, I cried. The reason why I cried is because it reminded me of where I was from. I had to win in order for me to feel like I was moving forward. And unfortunately, that was a mistake on my part. But nobody ever told me when I was 7, 8 years old that it was okay to lose. I never learned how to lose until I got to college. Never learned how to lose. When I lost my grandmother, it taught me how to lose. It wasn't football. It was real life. Because it taught me how to deal with things and understand that that's the way life works. Like Dwayne said, some got to win, some got to lose. Unfortunately, there is no in-between. And I teach my kids that too. It's either you is or you ain't. There is no gray area in any of this because if you start setting yourself gray areas, that's where excuses start coming in.
Oh, yes.
And so once you start
and you
building
tend to
excuses,
live in the gray area.
And once you get to that point, then you get to a point of not everything I do has a rhyme or reason to it. And it only has to make sense to one person. And that's you. As long as what you're saying makes sense to you, who cares who else it makes sense to? And I think that's what the different stages of mental health and trying to understand the mental health, we put people in position from the time our kids are kids to the time we getting ready to go to college to the time that we're adults. It's people along our path that don't understand that none of us are trained therapists. As a trained therapist, I'm not trained because the thing is, I can't diagnose everybody.
Right.
All I could do is do my best to be a platform for you to be able to express yourself. But what I'm saying may not work for you because you haven't accepted in your mind that along the line of you getting to this point, everybody that you have encountered has been the same type of person. So your trust issues don't lie with me. It lie 4 or 5 people before me. And so when we send our kids to school and they come home with certain things, the teachers in this class are not mental health therapists. They're not therapists at all for that matter. What they need to teach their kids is 2 + 2 is 4. Yeah. That's what they're trained to do. Some of them go above and beyond, and you got to take your hats off to a lot of educators because they do things that go unnoticed, and they are like the bottom of the bottom.
Oh, yes.
Why?
Usually.
I don't know. Because if you was to flip at least half of the pay for what the professional athletes get paid to at least paying these educators, our kids everybody would be a scientist maybe. Maybe not. But the thing is, you'll have
The
better
opportunity
quality
would be there, yes.
and to where you're sending your kids instead of just sending them, just anywhere. So, it's an uphill battle with mental health in our community because a lot of us don't think we need it.
I was just going to ask you, I know that mental health has a lot more to do, it has to do with a lot more than just depression. But I know a lot of people are walking around depressed and they don't even know that they're depressed or bipolar. You're up one day, you're happy and you're fine, and the next minute you're under the covers not wanting to come out the house, you know what I mean? And they don't even know that there's an issue. They just figure, I'm just tired today, or I just don't feel like socializing today, and they're extremely happy the next day, or, you know what I mean? And one day they feel like killing themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and they are stuck in their own mind and don't even know what's happening. And you mentioned earlier that the kids are depressed and the parents are depressed, so who's helping who?
Yeah.
You know, so what would you tell a parent or just an individual who might be depressed and don't really know what to do? You know, don't really, like, what kind of indication can you give someone that they probably should seek help, you know?
Well, I think just using my own personal experience, when it was brought to my attention that I might be depressed, I denied it. Because
Of course.
you the man. Who-
That's the first thing
Depression.
everybody
I'm
does.
not
Yeah.
depressed. That's not in my blood. It's not in my
Right.
family. But at the end
It's
of the
white
day,
folks. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, you're right. That's what I thought. So
I'll say it for you, don't worry.
at the end of the day, again, when you alone and you by yourself and you having these thoughts, you have to start understanding your thoughts in order for you to say, you know what? I'm just gonna go knock on this lady door, the therapist. I'm just say, ma'am, help me. Because if you don't ever get to that point, then deny, then like anything, it's gonna start building, and then that's when you get, you know, in some cases, I don't want to say the wrong thing, the people that decide to take different steps while they're depressed because they didn't use the outlet, they didn't use the church help, maybe they didn't use the person next to them in their seat. They didn't use certain things. What they did was internalized it to the point where they imploded.
No.
And then now we're going to make T-shirts. Now we're going to how could I have helped that person when all the signs was there, but the individual is not going to get what they need until they decide that they're needed. Because if they never admit that they have a problem or they're facing depression or anxiety or the bipolars or whatever you want to have it, then they're going to seek the help, and now we can start the healing process.
So my question to you, like, as a psychotherapist and stuff like that, I might be calling you wrong, but
It's okay, bro.
you understand what I mean. So, as a therapist, right?
And that's not from a mental health perspective. That's just from more of a I care about you type of perspective.
Yeah.
And I think if we had that type of approach to something that was mentioned earlier, especially when it comes to us and dealing with the situation at hand, you know, it'd be more of a community-based solution than individually handling these situations.
Because it's like, not trying to cut you off, but cutting you off still. But I'm curious about something, because you said something kind of interesting about the friends dynamic. Because a lot of folks keep on saying men hold everything in. And I'm a firm believer that is not factual.
Who told you that?
Because it's like, I had a coworker at one point. He was always on the phone, like talking to his wife, even though she at work. They made that time to talk like through that whole entire work shift, and he was able to talk to his friends on his backup phone. It's like, I mean, the level of conversation that even to the point where I'm like, bro, when are you gonna stop talking? But it's like he made sure that they were all right, and they tell them about their struggle, and then it's a back and forth between like their problems, and at the end of the day, he still had his hair. He ain't stressing. Like, but other people internalizing, like myself, is like, Jesus, what happened to your hair? It's like, it's not good to let just keep it all in, and then that's why I'm trying to change now. So it's like I'm hoping that I can grow back, but it's like it's like sometimes you know like that. But my true question was to you is like, oh man, I forgot it. Come back to me. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I had it, and then it's like it slipped me.
I like your hair, Matthew.
It's like, well, that's so disrespectful. But all right, respect. I like the fact that you like the cut.
What hair?
The cut.
There's no hair.
Again, the cut. You like the cut. Was like.
Like your hair.
I respect.
Mental health. All right, so what would you tell somebody who feels right now that's listening that they just feel like they're just gonna explode, explode, all the plodes. Their whole world just feels like it's falling apart, and they don't know what to do, and they just they just feel stuck.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the feeling you get, stuck. You feel like there's something holding you back, holding you down. You don't know where to go, where to turn, who to talk to, if anybody will even listen or understand,
I just on the path of the mental health thing, I think a lot of times in that particular situation, I think you just have to give them the best advice would be not only going seek help, but help yourself as well. If you get into the point where you feel like you got to harm yourself or you're getting ready to harm yourself, at that point you need to do what I learned over, I was reading this book. It's called My Grandmother's Hands. And this book is about what's going on right now in the world as far as the social injustice and different things and how racism plays such a big part in certain things. And part of his coping skills were stop, drop, and roll. When we think of those things,
Come on now.
we think of a fire, right? When you getting ready to get burnt, the first thing they teach you as a kid, stop, drop, and roll. And the author makes the connection. When you getting ready to implode, when you feeling like you're going to do something that's not beneficial for your health, stop. Take a deep breath. Take what's going on there. Focus on what's going on. Drop whatever you're doing. Walk away from it. Go take a deep breath. Roll. Remove yourself from the situation completely. Come back when you feel like it's necessary. And a lot of us don't necessarily understand what that really means. Because if me and you in a heated debate, I may walk away, but I'm come back still pissed.
Yeah.
Which means it did me no good.
Nothing,
But if I can walk away and think about this, and now I come back with a different attitude, now the conversation go in a completely different direction.
Yes.
And I think as an individual that's dealing with this situation on a personal and individual level, you have to teach yourself that same coping skill, because if you can just take a moment from yourself, believe me, you need to. If some people meditate, I tried it. It takes some time to get used to. But the quietness is what was getting me, because when you sit still with a purpose, a lot of times your mind starts to do things that you didn't know it can do.
Yeah.
And when you're finally sitting still and you're becoming one with yourself, and now you enter,
You're
you're
focused.
bringing things in.
Right.
When you come out of that, you're like, wait a minute, what just happened?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like now you're like, hold on, now I see what everybody was talking about.
Yeah.
But if that's not a form of coping, or you can't do that with yourself, you have to be able to distance yourself from yourself. You have to be able to say to yourself, okay, we have a serious problem here. We breaking down somewhere, something needs to go. Because if you ever get to the point where you feel like the world is over, that's panic button, hit it now.
That's not good.
Because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
at any given moment, when you deal with 13-year-olds that tell you they have nothing to live for, when you deal with a 12-year-old that tells you they haven't eaten in days, these are things that'll break some individuals.
Yeah.
But when you tell these 12 and 13, 11-year-old kids that if you can make it, imagine you telling this kid to do something that they're not built to do at that moment. But what you also need to do, like something Dwayne said earlier, you got to teach them kids why you're teaching them that and what comes next. It's like the football concept. Yeah, football was good, but it's something that comes after. If you can hold on, I can provide this bread for you. But if you can stay strong long enough, you're going to be able to provide the bread for yourself.
Yeah.
But you have to get through this.
Yeah.
And it's not teaching them how to be weak because you're talking them through it. You're not saying, shut up, you're crying because you're hungry. What you're saying, sit down, let's eat this food.
Yeah.
But while you're eating, you feeding them a different type of food. So now you're able to help this kid transition from being this poor little black kid to being possibly a doctor or lawyer because you helped them transition from their mental state into a stronger mental state. And a lot of times, again, we put people in that situation that don't necessarily know that. Like, as a mental health therapist, I don't know everything. And I don't pretend like I do. I learn more from my middle school kids and my own kids than I learn from anybody else, because they're going to say things to you, they're going to open up, but they're going to make you go home and think about
it. A lot of adults not going to open up like
not
a
at
kid
all.
would.
Not at all, because adults are more reserved because I don't want you to judge me.
Right.
Exactly.
But when you're going through that phase and you do decide to go and get help, you have to let it out. Because if you only letting out half the information, what good are you doing yourself? So that'll be my advice. Would be, you have to be honest with yourself. If you're at the point where you're getting ready to break, don't do it, because it's better. I promise. No matter, man, as it's so many things that I wish we had 5 hours to have this conversation. But
Oh, yes.
you know, it's so many things as a former athlete that I can say are the position I put myself in because somebody didn't teach me financial stability or teach me how to do certain things, that I could sit here and say and blame that on why I didn't do what I need to do. But there's so many things that I also can say that was in my favor that made me do what I need to do. So you have a choice. Like, again, back on that yellow brick road, you have, you know, when you get off at those stops, you can choose to stay there, or you choose to get back on and see where that road takes you at. And it's just, you know, a beautiful thing, because I feel like we need to have more conversations, more TED Talks, more things about mental health, and teaching us, you know, our community, that it is important. Who cares what you have and what you don't have? That's not what it's about at this moment. It's about being mentally strong so we can build a better community. If that's your end goal, then that's what we need to start doing.
That's wonderful. I remember a teacher of mine, his main mantra for the class is "Life ain't fair." That's about it. So, but
I also heard another quote that said, "Life is like a box of chocolate."
oh man.
But
But the thing is, the question I'm trying to get at finally came back to me. Is you said earlier that after football there was like nothing. So, and your coach tell you is like, you just gotta get back up and figure it out. What caused you to say, you know what? After football, let me become a psychotherapist to analyze young kids. Like, what led to that? Because like, that's crazy.
You know what? I think what it did, it brought you back to what would you do without football? If football was never a part of the A plan, what would you be doing? And a lot of what I found myself doing, volunteering at Boys and Girls Clubs, reading with the kids, doing certain things to where I found myself wanting to do more. And again, in order for me to do more, I had to get myself together. I had to get my own mental health together. And by going to school and studying, it kind of brought light to a lot of things I was running from.
Nice.
And once I took accountability of my own past mistakes and my own actions, it allowed me to focus on, like you said, on what's next. Because from 2008, I went from the NFL to Canada. I played in Canadian football. And then from Canadian football, I played arena football. So from the time I was 6 to the time 33, playing football. Now, in one swoop, it's gone. So you don't, along that way, along those bus stops we was talking about, nothing told me that I was never going to do anything outside of this, because that's all I knew, and I let the world tell me that's all I knew. Until I sat down and had a conversation with somebody, and I realized, what are you doing? Like, you can affect different individuals in different ways. Football was only the path for you to meet the people, for you to get here. Football wasn't always going to be here, because at the end of the day, I don't care who you are. It's going to end.
Yeah.
So once it ends, what do you do next? It's going to define who you really are.
That's it.
Because catching the pass and running, that was easy. But when the pads are off, you hang up the cleats for the last time. When you're walking out, the lights cut off, the crowd is gone. Now what? Unfortunately, you have people like Junior Seau and a couple more of those guys. They didn't know how to transition because it's like one of the things I heard, being famous is the biggest drug ever. It is, because you have people that's dying or are going above and beyond to do what you did. And to not appreciate that, I would be selfish. Because I didn't just put in the work.
Yeah.
Other people put in work with me for us to get there. So, you know, when you get there and it ends, now you're looking back like, dang, Coach such and such did say this. Coach such and such did say this. My mama did say, my grandma did. Now you at the point where all those thoughts, just like the game ended, now they bum rushing you to the point where you have to pick something. And the beautiful thing about the NFL is they do have opportunities for you to further your education that they pay for and do other things. So I enrolled in the program, and because of that, I was able to go back and get my bachelor's, my master's, and now I'm working on my PhD. Nice. So from 6 trunk to a PhD.
Amen.
And then
Amen.
the crazy thing is, if you tell anybody that knows me, this is like the funniest thing in the world. Like I'm talking to a good friend of mine, and we talking about being a doctor. He was like, "What are you doing?" Because it's like that's not the part of me that they know.
Right.
You know what I mean? They just know the athlete, but it's bigger than the athlete. You know what I mean? Like it's so many people that you run across that you are very pleased to have met, and they give you good advice, but unfortunately that wasn't part of my plan A until after, when I needed a plan. Just like you said, it took you as long as you did, but you never quit. Which means that along your yellow brick road, every stop you got off, somebody made you get back on, and that there was a light at the end of that tunnel that you got to. So a lot of people don't have what you have. A lot of people don't have that push. Some people, when you get to that stop, or those 1 or 2 stops, it's not that push to get back on. It's, I'm happy you here because now you're like me. Now you're stuck in quicksand, like I'm stuck in quicksand. So I'm not going to motivate you.
The misery love company type.
Exactly, because if you get an A and I get a B, you better than me.
That's true.
Not understanding that I'm happy for you that you got this B. You know why? Because we pass this together. But because the concept is so wrong for so many people that they don't want to see progress. And that what kept me away from Fort Lauderdale for so long is because the people that I believed in, the people that I thought was in my corner, they love to see when you down.
Yes.
They when you down and you not
They
somebody
just say
bigger
Fort
than
Lauderdale got that stigma.
you know what I mean? When you bigger than what they ever expected you to be, when you're down, they're happy. You know why? Because now I'm more relatable to you.
Yes.
In NFL, I'm not relatable to you because you're doing something that I never did. You're probably making more money than I make. We can't talk, but now you make same amount of money. You go to 9 to 5. Now you're home. You're raising your kids. Oh, now we got a lot to talk about. Why? When I never been somebody that's bigger than nothing. I'm out. How I am sitting in front of you right now is how I've been my whole life. I'm never that guy who make the NFL bigger than who I am. Just I talk to anybody now, I talk to anybody then, because who am I? It's a game. At some point, it's going to end. Are you going to be bigger than that game? Never. And then you lose things along the way, like your identity, self-pride. You lose more respect. I'm here.
We have this viewer, it's too long. I saw, but he was to kind of sum it up. He was saying that
depression could be a silent killer.
Yeah, it's a silent killer, and some techniques that he did in order to go through and get through his
Sometimes
issues.
you gotta be careful with the whole music thing too when you're depressed, because a lot of people when they're depressed, they listen to depressing music.
Yeah, boy,
That's
yeah,
Right.
you just pouring kerosene on that gas.
all my friends are dead, all kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Not
but
even
like it's
that. If you start looking at some soulful music, it's like, man, I understand that you broke up with your girl, but
and that's another
going
thing too.
through
When you go through a heartbreak, when you listen to it, you listen to heartbreak
Because
song.
it relates to what they're going through in
Well, that's
terms
just
of
fueling
I'm
the
in
flame.
misery. I wanna wallow in it
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
much. Yeah.
yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
what it
but
is.
I mean, if that works for them, you know what I mean. That's awesome, man. Like
nah, that's kind
You
of
know,
messed
that's-
up.
that's
though,
good.
but it's
I
all
think that
good.
gets you deeper.
it does.
It does.
Nobody
It
who's
does.
depressed is gonna just turn on happy music and be like, yeah, and it's not
I
gonna
think
change.
like
it.
if you're depressed, sometimes just to me, let's just get out.
But
know
you
what
ain't
I
gonna
mean?
want to
Just
be around somebody happy if you depressed.
Well, actually, that's what you need.
Which is why they
I know,
they'll
but you not
lock
gonna
in.
want to. Is
Exactly
what I'm
what you
saying.
need.
You know what I'm saying?
You know,
Like if I'm
and-
depressed and I come around y'all and y'all just happy, yeah, I done won the lotto, and I'm scratching my pockets touching. I'm gonna be like, man.
You'll
ain't
go
trying to be
home
like
And
and
then,
be
that.
like,
and then you be like, we could be in the same vicinity, and I'll be like, yeah, I just hit the lotto, and you be sitting there, and then the Lord could be like, yo, bless the minister of mine with a mill, and I'll be like, yo, man, you know,
Yeah,
the Lord
that's
has told me to
true.
give you a mill, and then guess what? Now your mood changed.
The funny thing is, you know what
If
I
that
believe
happens,
though?
right.
This same depression thing is a little bit more than just
I think it's deep.
an environment,
It is
and it's
deep.
really deep
It's
because
deep.
at the end of the day, people that kill themselves, when you look at a lot of these rich folks, they got money.
Yep.
Yeah, it ain't
They're
Well,
that
jumping
together.
off of buildings. It's not the money. It's not the, okay, I'm depressed now. Maybe you got into depression because it's financial issues and family issues and this kind of issue and that kind of issue. But there's something more going on
Yeah,
that
yeah,
the
something
money
more deeper.
fixing that is not going to change it.
Yeah.
It's so much more than you have to get into yourself. You need somebody to open up something for you.
Yeah, it's
You
not
know?
what you think is gonna fill that hole, because usually what you
Exactly.
think is gonna fill that hole makes the hole.
And then us,
Exactly.
us,
Exactly.
Exactly.
us not having it, and we see people that have it, we feel like they have it all together and they're good. And a lot of times, man, a lot of people that have a lot of money, they don't even sleep well.
So I'm
And
telling you,
that's- and I'm telling
Yeah, they
you,
don't
like,
sleep well.
listen,
When you
man,
think about
it-
Michael Jackson, that man worth
Listen, man.
billions.
it was
And the man, he had a sleeping issue.
Yeah,
it was the worst.
lot of issues.
It was the best worst time of my life because you here, but mentally you here
Yeah.
because you feel like everybody wants something.
yeah,
Nobody wants the tired no more. Everybody, oh, can I get this? Can I get that? Or can I get this? The outside people who asking for these things, they don't understand. They may ask for a ticket or sign a signature, but at some point, ask about me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the end of the
Every
day,
time they call, they want something.
and
That's
this is fair and it's not fair
Right.
yeah.
because when you're a blessing, that's what people expect. But what happens after that blessing? Like we have to get to a point where the money isn't as much as an issue
Right.
as the opportunity. And I think if I could have played football for 30,000, I would have.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't about the money.
Yeah.
It was just about me being able to do what I love to do. And if 30,000 was the minimum, man, I'd have gave the same effort if they was gonna pay
Yeah.
800, 900,000.
Actually, people back in the days paid for that and had a full-time job.
I know. And full-time job.
With a leather helmet. They ain't had a real helmet.
Auto mechanics
Yep.
out there fix the car right.
How they
at the
doing
beginning.
their thing, and them boys are still out there playing. So,
Boy smoking cigarettes.
yeah.
Smoking
But you
cigarettes.
know,
They were
it's
smoking while playing.
I'm
I saw
talking on
some
the
clips.
sideline.
yeah, it sounds
No, I'm
like
talking
smoking.
about on the field because it's like I saw some clips like before the official thing started. Some people were like, "Ah," and then you just see it like sailing. I'm like, bruh, how you doing that?
They did it for the love, man. They just loved it.
Yeah, just love the
You know what I
game,
mean?
man.
It wasn't no politics to it. It wasn't no, like I said, a lot of them when they played on Sundays, they practiced and they had their full-time jobs, man, and they made it.
course.
You know, so. And then these guys, man, like, you know, Todd, Benny, Asante, these guys made me start watching teams I never used to watch. You know what I mean? Just watching, like, people went to school and just make it. You know what I mean? You're like, man, I got to watch Kansas City this Sunday. Now I got to watch Denver.
You know
play-
what's crazy? I remember the first time I played against Zion. It was weird to me because in my eyes, Zante was a star to me, and I
Yeah.
played in the NFL too. But to me, I felt like he was established,
Right.
and this was our high school quarterback.
Mm.
So for me to play against him, we talking on the field like he on the other side of me, I'm on this side. I'm like, Zant, we talking in the middle of plays. We just having conversation. Then 2 weeks later, I play against Sap.
Yeah.
Then a couple weeks later, I play against
That's
a duel.
nice. Nice.
Then
A
you
duel,
play
yeah.
against
The dude was in Green
people
Bay.
that you went to college with.
That's
Then
what's
I'm in
up.
Baltimore. I get put on Baltimore team with one of my best friends, Alberto Franklin. We went to the same junior college. Then a year later, I get put on there with a guy that went to school with me in Missouri, Rod Green. So you sharing this experience with
Yeah.
people
Quite a
that
few
you
people,
know,
yeah.
and it's like it's so amazing because I posted a picture probably a couple weeks ago, months ago, of when we took our team picture at BA. It was Sap, Zunt, and then me. Whoever knew how the world was going to turn, all three of us had opportunity. With Brandon, Abdul, Jakari, like on our team. And to be honest with you, we was terrible as a team. I think we might have went 6-6. We lost to Douglas and maybe Coral Springs and
Because
Terre
they had
too.
big heads.
Like
Got
Boys, you know,
Yeah.
humbling themselves.
listen, man, we was when I say we was bad, I mean we was good.
We were good.
Don't get me wrong.
Y'all
we
just had big heads.
we just couldn't win. We went from running a five wide to a wing T.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
that's come on now. I mean, you got all horses out there.
Sante only threw to you.
I mean,
If he threw to you, he's running.
so it was, you know, it's a blessing.
I
like
can't
you
remember what
said.
Benny Sapp played with us in high school. I remember
He played wing.
Yeah.
And corner.
in corner. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
why
man,
they
it
made
was-
him a DB?
He was good though.
He was.
He was so
Question
good.
though, it's like I'm not trying to cut you off, but cutting you off. But it's like you said, it's based off again back to what you said after football and going into that place. Like, what's next? Like, I understand that you say your coach gave you some inspirational words of wisdom and stuff. Figure it out. That's a wonderful word of wisdom. Like leading you nowhere. But my thing is, it's really about that period of time where the nothingness, the swamp feeling. How do you get yourself out of that moment? Because it's like, I know a lot of people, especially when they finish high school or it's like college, and the promised situation that they thought they were going to have didn't work out. And it's like, I understand that after football, what's next? How do you get yourself out of that negative mindset? Like, oh man, I wish I had done this, or at least invest. Because you're gonna see. I know that when you start seeing other people who did certain things and planned out their things at first, it's like it was kind of questionable. But you see them after the fact, and then they're doing well. How do you not let the situations of the folks around you who are successful, or even the folks who are worse off than you, like cause you to go backwards, but forwards in a sense?
Well, you have to look at the situation. The way I saw it was, I seen myself go from a junior college, Division II, NFL. To me, that's the back way to everything that you ever wanted. I didn't play big time football. I didn't do big time things, but I was good enough for somebody to give me an opportunity. Which means, at what I may consider my worst, somebody saw it be my best.
Yeah.
Which means if I'm in a funk, I have to be able to have that same energy in order for me to transition. The way I saw it was, once that cycle ended, I'm back in junior college. That was the depression phase. I'm back at Division II. That was the phase of me going to school. Now I'm back in the NFL where I'm going to be a doctor. And it's like, when you process things and how they really cycle, and they do cycle the way they do, you meet people along the way that's going to do one or two things. They're going to lift you up, or they're going to bring you down. If you stick around long enough, you're going to understand who is doing what.
Yeah.
And once you're able to decipher who is doing what, now you're able to make a decision. Okay, I can't really deal with you. I got to somehow, some way separate myself with you. But what you do, you find yourself gravitating more towards the people that have your best interest in mind. And for me, that was coming back home. The best thing I ever did was came back home. When I came back home, I was around people that believed in me at that time more than I believed in myself. And that's what made the difference between now and then.
Wow. Well, we got an education tonight. We learned a lot. We talked a lot. It's been awesome. It was real. It's real out here.
It's blessed.
All right, Minister, more final thought.
Man, I appreciate you for coming on, man. I was quiet because I was just soaking in a lot of what you were saying, and a lot of what you were saying was real sound. It made a lot of sense, bro.
Yes.
And you know, just like you were saying, you know, to have conversations with people, because sometimes, like, you don't know. Sometimes you could look at somebody and you could look at they might be doing good, and there might not be any signs of telling or anything like that. But just to have a conversation with them, continuous conversation, to keep them in your thoughts, keep them in your prayers, keep them, you know, bouncing back ideas and thoughts to you. It's a very good way to check on people, to check up on people. You know, sometimes like we used to call people like 4 o'clock in the morning. Man, I was just calling to see if you was gonna pick up. We ain't really want nothing, but we just wanted to see if they was gonna pick up. You know what I'm saying? And if they didn't call, you'd be like, man, I could have been dead or something. And it's the same kind of mentality, man. We gotta always check on our brothers, man. Check on our sisters. Check on our children. Check, because this world is so hectic right about now.
Yeah.
With so much that's going on that you don't even know, like we talking about these kids, they don't even eat right or whatever. Man, they have no idea what they be walking out into. When they walk out the door, they have no idea that the people that, you know, are supposed to be policing and protecting them, they might have bad days too. They might, you know, do something out of impulse and out of not being prepared or taught correctly. And Lord knows, man, it could be the end of their life, or, you know, I mean, we just got to really be diligent in teaching and checking on one another and seeing the situations, almost giving people a chance to bounce back a situation to us as what they would do or what they are prepared to do in these times, man. It's so important, man. And I was thinking, like when you said, a thing with us, when I grew up, we used to have a table, and we used to sit around the table and eat and have conversations.
Yeah.
When I grew up, we used to have a journal and write down things in the journal. Like we probably need to get back into certain. I'm not saying it's gonna be the same. It will never be the same. But certain things that could substitute for those things, we really need to examine and think about ways we can check on that before we put somebody out there unprepared.
Right.
So I appreciate, man, everything you said, man. It was a blessing, bro, to have you on.
I definitely appreciate y'all having me.
So, final thought.
You know, with everything going on in the world and the community, let me rephrase what I'm trying to say. A lot of what's going on is deeper than black and white.
Yeah.
A lot of what's going on
Yeah.
is internal first, outside second.
Yeah.
And until we understand that, we're going to always have an issue.
Yeah.
And
For real.
one thing that we don't realize, we have numbers.
Yeah.
And the word is you have strength in numbers. And situations like this where you come together and talk, we need more of that.
Yeah.
Community-based conversations. And the more we have it, the more understanding we have, the more you know what each other do, so we can piggyback off each other and make our community what we want it to be, if that's what your goal is. And I just want to thank everybody up here for having me. It's always good for me to have my own therapy and release.
Good.
So, you know, hopefully, I didn't talk too much. My message was
you
clear.
talked just enough, man.
But I enjoy these things. But I just wish, with everything that's going on, build your community from the inside out.
That's
and
right.
I promise you, nobody can break it down.
That's right.
That'll be my final word.
That's right.
Evangelist.
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Yes, your message was clear, very clear. I appreciate it a lot. I like when the stop, drop, and roll thing. That was really good, because that's something that I always say to myself. I don't know if I ever said it to my family, but, you know, stop, drop, and roll really helps. Believe me, because there are times when you're just a lot going on in your mind. I started doing this vision board a while back, and for about 2 years or more, I've had the vision board up in front of my bed, and it had a bunch of stuff on there. Oh, I want this, I want that, and yes, and all of that. and it just represented what was going on in my mind. Too much clutter. A whole lot of clutter, a whole lot of mess, and at the end of the day of running on the hamster wheel, you're tired and you're just frustrated and you've accomplished nothing. That was my life for a while. And so I decided to stop, drop, and roll.
Yeah.
Stop, just stop. And I tore that thing down. I'm telling you, just this year, ask him. Tore that thing off the wall. I said, you know what? Forget everything. You got to go up the step.
Yeah.
There's steps to what you need to do in your life. When you progress, you're going up steps. You're either going up the steps or going down the steps, but you're not going to be jumping up 5 flights of stairs or just going step, a bunch of different levels of stairs all at once. So I decided to just focus on one thing at a time because everybody is different. Yeah. Some people could focus on 5 things at a time. I'm not that person, and I recognize that. I had to look into me and decide that, you know what? I had too much on my list going on and trying to accomplish too many things all at once. So I decided to just focus on one thing at a time. So I took the vision board down with all that mumble jumble foolishness, and I decided, what's next? What do I need to do next in order to accomplish what comes after that? Certain things you have to do before you get to certain places. Right. And so I decided to focus on school. And then, I started to focus on one exam at a time, as opposed to being confused as to what to study, what to do. So focus, you just narrow everything down to one thing at a time if you're that type of person. And I'm telling you, just like that, one step at a time, things just became more clear. Yeah. I could see where I was going. It wasn't too much going on. And it's mental. A lot of times, this, when your house look a hot, cluttery mess, that's how your mind is. Yeah. That's what your mental state represents. Definitely. It shows in your home. It shows in your car. It shows in your life. Oh, yeah. It shows in your friends. It shows in everything you do. Your mental health shows that. And so I decided to just clear some things out. So I did the little stop, drop, and roll thing. And I did roll myself out of the cluttery mess and just focused on one thing at a time. So, I appreciate you coming. Thanks for making a lot of things clear for us today. That's my final word today.
My final thoughts is like, I'm not trying to cut you off, but I'm going to cut you off. But it's like, I hope you did clean up the mess afterwards. But my thing is, like, my thought is kind of weird, but hopefully you just go with me as you listen. I love food. All right? And it's like, I love watching all these different races talk about food. And when you start hearing them talk about their lifestyle before they reach with where they were coming from. And it's like, you realize, wait, you Asian, but you sound like your mom was a black woman. Or, because it's like most
based
of the
on
what
food?
based off
food.
Listen, not just the food, but the way their parents raised them. It's like, wait, you sure you ain't talking about a Caribbean mother? Because it's like the way they had to deal with it's like it's very similar. I'm not just talking about the Asians. I'm talking about the Mexican. If you don't like being called Mexicans, and then you're gonna have the other different races, Filipino, white, not American white, but sometimes the American white too. It's like you just notice that there's a lot of similarities, and it's like especially when you have a family that, regardless if your mother or father was there, but at least you had a foundation. You realize that there's a lot of similarities, and regardless of the situation, as long as you're able to talk about it, at least to some extent, it helps. Even if it is, they said in the Bible about the mustard seed, as long as you have faith of a mustard seed, you're able to progress. It's pretty much the same as long as you're able to communicate. Because regardless of how hard the situation is, when you have a friend or a family member you could talk to through it, it just feels a little better. It's like the situation isn't as serious as it was, especially now that we have social media. It's like you're not limited to just family. It's like you could hear these personal situations through conversational pieces like this, either podcasts, even through simple things like watching people cook or mukbangs, where they talk about. Because it's like these folks are willing to talk about their personal experiences, and then it's like, oh, because I remember in the Bible it talk about, I think his name is Elisha. Quote me if I'm wrong, but he believed that he was the only one. Yo, you gotta fact check me, because it's like I'm not good with names, but I noticed they were talking about how he was talking to God and he said he felt like the only one. But at the end of the day, God's like, no, there's multitudes out there who are still willing to stand firm for belief. It's like social media just made it seem, and it's like, to me, I know suicide is rough, but if you don't have that person in your corner who you could talk to, you could still watch these videos, because sometimes I see these dudes, they just make some random video to get a person laughing, and they help a kid who's in a cancer ward who think that this is it. He's like, nah, this actually helped me to fight through and not just sit here and wallow in my self pity. So it's like, I'm not trying to big up social media, but it's like,
use your resources.
Use your resources when because if you can't talk to your brother, your sister, your doctor, just listen. Sometimes that's the best thing to do, because regardless of how messed up you were going through, there's always somebody out there who either been through something similar or is going through something far worse. So it's like, just keep on pressing, regardless of how rough the situation get. That's my final word.
For real.
For real. So we just say back in the day, the word. All right, so, man, my final thought, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I kept it a secret for many years. But,
There you go.
You know,
Tell the truth, man.
I will. I started church a little bit over 7 years, and you know, when you first enter the church, a lot of people don't understand, like, when you have outside issues and you bring those into the church, all you do is just switch addictions. And you just switch being addicted to something outside the world until now you're addicted to church. So now you feel like, oh, you come to church, you're doing this, you're doing that, and you feel like you're doing good, when really you just switch addictions. You're not really fixing the issue that you have. So, you know, speaking for me, you know, I started the ministry, and you know, I dived in full-fledged, but it was just like an addiction for me. I wasn't really fixing anything, because I was still having struggles outside, you know, of church, and outside of everything, you know, that I was facing on a day-to-day basis. And you know, that's where, you know, it dropped in my mindset. Like, listen, like, when you was brought up, you know, with the way you're brought up, it just tarnished your whole vision of everything that you could see. And you know, I actually took myself to a shrink, you know, and laid on somebody's couch and let them know, like, listen, this is my issues. This is, you know, first they want to hear what you think your issues are. Then they try to like show you certain things and teach you certain things and try to let you understand, like, why you went through that, why you faced it, and why you faced a lot of things. And you know, actually the fact that I did that, you know, and the fact that I was in the church actually boosted my mentality a lot, you know, because the fact that I could actually put the word to everything I was going through and understand, just like what Todd said, like, when you're on that road and you go through certain pit stops and you go through certain things and you face certain things, you know, it's up for you to get up and just keep moving, because if you sit right there, guess what? You're gonna die right there.
Yeah.
You know, and I was in a place where nothing wasn't like really going right. You know, marriage wasn't right. A lot of stuff wasn't right, and I just had to take myself out of the situation, because when you look at yourself and you enter into a commitment with someone, you think you're perfect. That's the first thing you tell yourself: I'm perfect. I got it all together. Because you're coming in something with your own laws, your own beliefs, your own upbringing, and you're figuring that that's the way you were brought up. You know, just like the woman in the Bible, in Judges, Deborah. You know, she went to go see the king, but he believed that, you know, a woman, you know, should always serve a man, and then that's how she was able to get close to him, to kill him. You know, and when you grow up with that mentality, like, a woman is supposed to do this, that's how you enter into a relationship. So I had to take myself out of all of that and actually, like, unlearn and start to relearn myself, because I never knew who I was. You know, and it's just like when I met Todd, I told Todd, like, the worst thing I think, like, one of the baddest thing I think I ever did in high school was just, like, was focused on football. Yeah, I had good grades. Yeah, I had all that good stuff. But my mental capacity was just like really just stuck on football. I had like 2 gym classes, just to stay in shape, and then when you're coming back from spring, when spring is starting in like a month or so, I was out there, I already start running because I lived in Shaker Village. You could run around like the little block. I already start running, getting myself in shape. So you show up because you already know you show up day one. What they do, so then you go run because you're out of shape, And it's all those stuff I used to always do because you actually start to form your life around that. And then, like, when I went to college and they just opened up my whole mindset, I was like, listen, man, this is not it. This is not everything. And then just watching, like, different like, professionals go through certain things. They gain $100 million contract, and then you hear, like, they're filing for bankruptcy 10 years later. And you're like, that's not right. They just wasn't brought up right. Their mentality wasn't right. So sometimes you have to look at yourself as an individual and do what you have to do for yourself. A lot of us in the minority community will not go see a shrink, will not go see someone and sit on the couch and tell them what's going on with you because we figure that's like a load, some load that we're not supposed to do. Whatever it is that takes for you to help yourself, help yourself.
Definitely.
You can't just switch addiction and feel like you're helping yourself that way. And I thought like I was helping myself, coming to church, doing this, doing that, when really I wasn't, because it wasn't fixing myself mentality. I was doing the motions. I looked like I was doing everything right, but guess what? When I walked out of there, it was totally different wrong. It's like you had a version of person of me at church, a version of me at home, and a version of me at work. And that's not how we want to be. You want to be one version. When somebody said, "Man, I know that guy at work, he's like this," and they say, "Man, at home he's like this. At church he's like this. In the social he's like this." That's where we want to be in our mental capacity wise. So. Mental health is real. It starts with our upbringing, and it just digresses more and it pushes us more down into a downward spiral, until you get a grips of it and understand and jump to it real quick and understand, like, listen, this is something that I have to fix. And until you fix it, you're gonna always struggle with it, and you're gonna have that mental battle with yourself. You're gonna always be questioning yourself, why did I do this? Why am I doing that? Why am I always taking a shortcut? Why am I, it's always why, so why you're doing things, and you're gonna always find yourself asking this thing, So whatever it takes to help yourself, help yourself. Don't ever think anything that you do to help yourself and somebody talk about it, let if they want to talk, let them talk, but anything that you do to help yourself, to make the version of you a better you, go for it. Man, it's been awesome. It's been real. It's just a conversation. I want to say big shout out, big thank you for Todd for coming through,
Thank you for having me.
and giving us, some more knowledge, on mental health, and stuff like that. So, man, I appreciate everyone that subscribed, to the YouTube channel, and I appreciate everyone that watched this tonight. Don't forget to share it out. But yeah, this was awesome. It was real. It's just a conversation. We say hashtag talk about it.
Go to. You got anything you want to plug? Like, no?
What?
Like any programs?
We have a nonprofit organization called the Speakeasy Foundation. Basically, it's trying to do what we talked about here, trying to get our community more so into talking, like Dwayne said, into understanding that it's important. And right now we're building programs. I know with the COVID stuff going on, it kind of pushed a lot of things back. But we're working on the building. And once we get that, I'll share with Dwayne, and then
do that.
I'm telling you,
we'll be behind y'all.
Right, we want to get some things going here. It's time.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, appreciate you.